there, everyone. Welcome back to our channel. It's been a while since I've done a recording, so welcome back to Patriots of the American Republic, right? We're going to go right back into it. So today, I'm going to go over something that is near and dear to my heart. The reason why is, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a father of 5. I love kids. I grew up in an environment where kids were to be loved, protected, cherished, right, above everything and anything else. And, over, I would say, the last maybe decade or so, or 2 decades, there's been things that just an increase of, I don't know, perversion. I don't know what to call it, man, to be honest with you. And it seems like it's gaining traction. It's trying to be normalized. It's really sad. I don't think that the Twilight Zone pretty much has anything going on in our current society, to be honest with you. I mean, you would think bringing awareness regarding child trafficking would be something that normal and decent humans would be rallying behind, right? And most of you folks probably already know this, but there's a movie out called Sound of Freedom, right? It's an amazing movie. I mean, unless you were some sick, deranged deviant, protecting children should be a norm. And sadly, due to certain movements in our current political clown world we live in, a movie that brings awareness to child trafficking is being politicized by leftist nut jobs. I mean, in our first part, we're going to discuss the movie, and then what I'm going to try and do is cover all the different things that I have in this first episode, and then what I'd like to do, if possible, is bring in an expert, someone who's worked in the field, putting these monsters behind bars, as a guest on our second episode. That's what I'd like to do. I don't know if I'll get this person or not. The person has a very big, busy schedule. They are still active, so I am going to try and do that. Why? Because there's things that are going on, and it's there's rumors coming out from the left. The left is trying to dismiss certain things, and we'll go over it now. The QAnon conspiracy theories that they're titling this movie. So what I want to do is I want to offset that by bringing in an actual expert, right? But first, before we get started, what I want to do is I want to play the trailer for you. In case you guys haven't seen it, I'm sure you guys have, but in the event that you guys haven't, let's go ahead and take a look at it.
How'd that make you feel? Giving a child his freedom. Felt good. You have been at this for 12 years.
My country, 'tis of thee.
Why are you doing it?
Because God's children are not for sale. It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen.
We're Homeland Security. We can't go off rescuing Honduran kids in Colombia.
This job tears you to pieces. And this is my one chance to put those pieces back together.
And yet somehow you have failed to bring me one real-world lead.
It's over, Tim. Close up and come back home.
So you quit your job and you go and rescue those kids.
South of that river is all rebel territory. No one goes in.
What if this was your daughter?
So, she's gone. Hear that? That's the sound of freedom.
Sound of Freedom is one of those films that can legitimately change this world. So we want to ignite a fire in audiences and open their eyes to the dark reality of millions of children that need our help. Let's make this film a historic event and the start, the end of child trafficking. Theaters across this country are already selling out. Pre-order your tickets today, and you can send the message that God's children are no longer for sale.
So that's the trailer. I'm going to give you guys my quick review. It's just a quick summary, no spoilers. Like I said, I'm a father of 5. I believe this is an important subject matter. Throughout my life, I've heard, numbers of stories of specifically girls being abused as children from, a known relative, a friend. I mean, that alone is horrific, and it's sad. It's sad, and I'm sure that when we saw even though it was highly politicized, that Me Too movement, I saw so many of my friends, female friends, putting hashtag Me Too, and it made me, it hurt my heart to know that these people have gone through some type of traumatic experience. Like I said, unfortunately, that was politicized. It was done for the wrong reasons. Obviously, we saw that. I mean, I called it from the moment it happened. But anyhow, so that's horrific all in itself. But when we talk about child pornography and child trafficking, there's very different aspects of perversion, and it's a perversion of pedophilia. You mix that in with the internet technology. It's made the situation into a disgusting multi-billion-dollar industry, and I put that in quotation marks because that shouldn't even be an industry, right? It's disgusting. It's sick. If I had one wish, it would be to just do away with all of that stuff. I don't think any child should ever suffer in that manner. But anyhow, the movie essentially follows the true events of an agent of it was a Homeland Security named Tim Ballard. Like I said, who worked for DHS. In the opening scene, he tracks down an internet pervert, right, which eventually leads him across a case of a little boy who's been kidnapped and sold to another pervert, right? This leads Mr. Ballard to the border, where he manages to find and rescue the little boy from his captor. After saving the boy, during the conversation, realized the boy has a sister who was also kidnapped within the event. And they were kidnapped with the promise of, it was essentially a Honduras family. And what happened was there was a talent agent who was promising a better life and opportunity and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, these are very poor people. And when you have that type of a scenario come to, you see and you hear about these Cinderella stories. Well, you can't, it's understandable that these parents would want that type of an opportunity so that the children could live a better life. So, it's understandable. The mistake was that this father actually left the kids there alone, thinking, trusting this person who was recruiting. It was a female who was recruiting these kids, right? So the movie essentially takes you from Honduras, and we see the trafficking that happens to. It takes you, if I'm not mistaken, to Bogota in Colombia, where they get sold. Then we go to Tijuana in Mexico, and then obviously we come across the border where Tim Ballard is able to rescue the little boy. But what happens is, due to the initial travel to Colombia, right, that's where the sister is, and that's where Tim Ballard has to go to help alongside the Colombian government. And this is all based on a true story, it's phenomenal. I mean, the first half of the film is believable. The second half is honestly, it's humanistically, it's not. If I didn't know if it was based on a true story, I would have been like, wow, this is some like exaggerated Hollywood stuff, because I can't imagine this man putting his own life in danger the way that he did for someone that he doesn't even know. It's just an amazing story. Be prepared. If you go watch, if you haven't watched it, and you go watch and take some tissues, take a box of tissues. That's all I'm going to tell you. So you would think that the basis of this movie is to bring attention to the realities of human trafficking, the realities and the perversion of what's going on. So you would think this has some type of unanimous rally behind, right? We're highlighting the deviants. We're showing these deviants and what they do and how they do it, their tricks. The fact that we have rich, wealthy pigs paying for this perversion, and then the innocence of how the children are getting trapped and so on and so forth. So you would think this is something just, I can't imagine anybody getting, like criticizing it or dismissing it or just pushing it aside. I can't imagine that unless you're a pervert yourself, right? Obviously, if you're a particular crime and you commit a certain crime and there's a movement against that crime, well, obviously you're going to be against that movement. That's the only thing that logically makes sense to me. And interestingly enough, I do want to show you guys. Let's see here if I can. Yes. So we've got a number of news sources that are calling this a QAnon conspiracy theory. So you know the QAnon, right? They're into conspiracy theories. They're these right-wing right-wing lunatics, right? That's interesting. It's amazing how they're putting this movie that's not a conspiracy theory, because if I'm not mistaken, major cities have something called Special Victims Unit. I mean, you have the leftist show, I think it's NBC or ABC, that they have a Law and Order SVU that's been going on for like 25 seasons. So no, it's not a conspiracy theory, this particular issue. So I have no idea why they're associating QAnon with this particular movie. It boggles my mind. But as you can see here, we've got the Washington Post. Sound of Freedom is a box office hit whose star embraces QAnon. Oh, so because he embraces QAnon, which I don't know what that means, but does that really need to be there with that title? What does his personal beliefs have to do with the movie that he just made? Rolling Stone, Sound of Freedom is a superhero movie for dads with brainworms. Oh, so brainworms. And again, it's highlighted. It's really small here, but the QAnon Angel Studio, so on and so forth. So they're mentioning again QAnon. Media Matters for America. I don't even know who they are. Who are they? Jim Caviezel pushes QAnon in a bizarre media blitz for new anti-trafficking movie. Jezebel, Sound of Freedom is an anti-child trafficking fantasy fit for QAnon, right? Then you have The Guardian, Sound of Freedom, the QAnon adjacent thriller, Seducing America. It is absolutely disgusting to see these particular people do this type of, or have these types of headlines. Who cares what his beliefs are? Is what he's making relevant? Is it true? Are children being exploited? Are they being abused? Yes. So this movie is absolutely relevant. This movie is a warning, and it should be deemed, and whatever his personal beliefs should not affect the status of the movie or should not prevent anybody to go see it. Let me ask you a question, and I'm going to show this just now to you now. Will Smith had a couple of conspiracies when he was interviewed by, I think it was Barbara Walters, years ago. How did his career turn out? I didn't see any headlines about Will Smith conspiracy theory. Let's go ahead and check that out.
I read that you felt that the government was deliberately spraying cold germs in subways, was deliberately trying to make people ill with the AIDS virus. This is pretty serious stuff. Do you really feel that?
Well, that's a good question. Well, I'm with Barbara Walters now. Oh, that's a serious one. Okay, so I got to, now, because people are going to chase me after this. People are going to chase me. I believe that it is quite highly possible that the AIDS virus is a result of genetic warfare testing.
By American agents?
Absolutely.
Well, why
am I a conspiracy theorist? I'm a conspiracy theorist, all right.
Wow, that's pretty interesting how he's got some conspiracy theories that Barbara Walters even laughed at or chuckled at, and yet I didn't see anything. I didn't see his career take a nosedive. I didn't see his it wasn't up until he got up and slapped someone at the Oscars where his career tanked, but it sure as heck wasn't because of the conspiracy theories. So again, the left is just disgusting. The left is disgusting at this point. They're not the normal left, they're just so backwards. I can't understand it. So here's another a leftist critic, and she's a movie critic. And what she does, and we've covered her on our channel before. We covered her when we did the Super Mario review. You know, brain dead leftist. She's got a huge following for movie critics. I mean, she's a clear leftist. It's clear when you hear her movie reviews. She's into the woke stuff and all this other nonsense. But let me go ahead and play for you what she said. And this was about, if I'm not mistaken, 8 days ago from today, regarding the movie.
Angel Studios doesn't really have any, but they sure have a lot of fans, enough to move the needle. The Chosen is their crown jewel, an ongoing crowd-funded series that over the past few years has played some episodes in theaters. We've talked about them because they've done quite well. In fact, The Chosen is so successful that just recently the CW acquired the first 3 seasons, the rights to air them on that network in the United States, which is that was a huge deal for Angel Studios and that show. Now, how about The Sound of Freedom? Well, this movie was not produced by Angel Studios. Disney, after it acquired Fox, it decided to shelve this film, which I think is helping the narrative of Sound of Freedom, because a lot of people who are interested in Sound of Freedom are against Disney right now. So they're like, oh, why'd they shelve it, man? So we'll talk about this. So the director brought it to Angel Studios because he recognized there was a lot of crossover appeal in the film and the people who made the movie and people who enjoy the work of Angel Studios. And sure enough, Angel Studios passed the buck on to their biggest crowdfunders. They have some kind of think tank of the biggest contributors to their studio, which are viewers, because again, it's all crowdfunded. And they asked them, and they said, what do you guys think? Should we release this? And they were strongly encouraged by their crowdfunders to do so. But, you know, just because someone is a supporter of your company doesn't mean they understand good business moves. And I think it was a mistake for Angel Studios to release this film because Angel Studios was doing so well. So let me tell you why. So the film has been endorsed by Mel Gibson. Somebody inaccurately said it was his movie. He just backed it up. And the reason is because it stars his Jesus, Jim Caviezel, so that connection was there. And Jim Caviezel, for those of you who might not be aware, has come out in favor of several right-wing conspiracies. Let's say it that way. So many of you over the past couple of days have been like, why aren't you covering Sound of Freedom? Why isn't Sound of Freedom getting more coverage in the press overall? And, you know, it's very conspiracy theory-like. It's not complicated. It's because of its relationship to right-wing conspiracies. That's the whole reason that it isn't getting any traction. Sound of Freedom is uncomfortably close to several right-wing conspiracies and the associated groups. And the movie has been politicized by the far right, not only with accusatory statements of, oh, this isn't why it's getting coverage because it's some kind of conspiracy theory. Just people don't want to be anywhere near that. And then also religious groups and far-right organizations have been buying up a large number of the tickets, not just to give out for free, you know, because they care about the film, they want to spread the message, et cetera, but clearly to also bump up that box office. So that's actually not a legitimate box. I mean, it is legitimate in that amount of money was made, but it didn't sell that number of tickets. It didn't entice that number of people to do it. You know, it's so funny because the group that supports Sound of Freedom will accuse other studios of doing that, whereas they do not. They don't do that. But here, that was actually what was done. So that's not great. I mean, $40.2 million is an impressive amount of money. And that's since it's only number 3 this weekend, but it opened on July 4th, and it did very well, particularly on that opening day. So no matter where that money came from, the exhibitors are happy to take it. They don't care how many people are actually in the theater. They just care about the amount of money that was, you know, the money that they get because of the tickets sold. And as you can see, that also has an effect on the box office. You know, that number, because of the way it was handled, I mean, people did go see the movie, but you know, I think that box office number is also, I would say that's a mix of ticket sales and also donations is a good way to put it. Now, we've discussed many times now, particularly in the last year or so, that conservative content is becoming quite popular, driven not just by white audiences, but also by a number of Latinos. We were just also talking about their box office muscle, and a lot of Latinos are conservative, as the United States is discovering through elections as well. So now you're seeing it in elections, and now you're starting to see it in entertainment. And conservative and religious audiences also tend to be a bit older, as was the audience for Sound of Freedom. And that also is consistent with a lot of regular, as in, will consistently go to the polls voters, which is why the left and left-leaning groups are trying to compel younger voters to get out there, because it makes a difference. There are these divides, and you're starting to see it reflected in audiences, which is fascinating. Now, Yellowstone is the most successful conservative content to date because it has everything. Conservative support. Dutton, the family name on the show, has become a popular first name for babies, both boys and girls, over the past few years. But it also has Hollywood support, big name actors, big studios behind it. And that's partially because of, the success of the show. But when it first started, Taylor Sheridan already had an established career in Hollywood, which gave him legitimacy, which is probably how he got the big names and big companies to give him a look in the first place, and why they still feel comfortable with the show. No conspiracies anywhere near Yellowstone. It's more about values and culture and stuff like that. So big difference, huge difference. And so companies feel comfortable associating themselves with the Yellowstone brand. And Angel Studios is doing business with the CW. However, I wonder how the CW feels about their decision to release Sound of Freedom. I know that the studios and pretty much every major organization does not want to get, and you might be like, well, what about things on the far left? Well, there aren't as many, can't even think of any far left conspiracies, to be honest with you. And I'm sure some of you will have some down below. But, I think that's more of the situation here. So it's the conspiracy thing. And I wonder if releasing Sound of Freedom could potentially hurt Angel Studios going forward and the companies that are willing to do business with them. Just when they were on the verge of themselves of legitimacy. That deal with CW, I cannot overemphasize the importance and the historic nature of it. That means Angel Studios was, and maybe still is, on a path to getting into Hollywood, legitimizing themselves, coming very much from the outside. That is amazing. But money talks. Hollywood loves money more than anything else, just like any business does. How do you send a message? Through money. So Tyler Perry came from the outside, very much from the outside, but managed to build himself an empire. Dude just bought BET. That's how big he is. And I see no reason that a conservative and or religious filmmaker couldn't build a similar empire. And maybe that could have, or maybe still is, Angel Studios. But the right-wing conspiracies are going to make Hollywood very nervous. And in addition to making Hollywood nervous, a lot of the right-wing conspiracies vilify Hollywood itself. So of course they want nothing to do with those conspiracies and those who put them forward, because they're saying those horrible things about Hollywood directly. So how do you expect to do business with the very people that you're trying to tear down? So that's important. So nobody in Hollywood is going to give Sound of Freedom its flowers. And I think buying up tickets doesn't help the cause either. As I said, the exhibitors will thank you, but it becomes more of a political thing than an actual legitimate movie. We've seen plenty of religious and conservative content succeed without that type of tricks. They're not doing that for Yellowstone, and that's a phenomenon. Therefore, I continue to believe that we will see more and more conservative and religious content made from outside Hollywood and some coming from within. But Yellowstone is the model, not Sound of Freedom. So I think that's an important distinction to make. Also for you to understand the landscape. It's very important politically.
Well, we'll stop it right there. So there's a couple of things that I want to address. Have there been any accusations towards Hollywood by anyone? You've got, what was that kid from, the Lost Boys? One of the Feldmans? He was open about what was happening. There have been plenty stars. I'm not going to name them all here because I don't follow up on it. It makes my stomach turn, to be honest with you. There have been a number of Harvey Weinstein. What was he doing? Have we ever heard things that happen on the casting couch? How many times has an actress had to do things that they didn't want to do in order to get the part? right? And so on and so. Are little girls being sexualized for Hollywood? I mean we can do a number of them. I mean, and we are going to get into one of the bigger ones. So these are not conspiracy theories towards Hollywood. They're actual things. What about Jeffrey Epstein? Anybody know about him? How come we don't have a list of the people that visited his island? I guess that's a conspiracy theory too. It's a conspiracy theory that he died in his jail cell, right? I mean, these people, again, they throw labels. It's no different than when they call you racist, homophobic, misogynistic, etc., 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 in order to dismiss or discredit you. It's the exact same tactic. So now we're doing conspiracy theories as a tactic. Okay. So here's the interesting thing. She completely dismisses the fact that this movie is based on a true story. She thinks it's like Hollywood entertainment. And it's not. It's based on a true story. It's based on real events. Even if it wasn't a true story, it's still very, very real. There are child abductions. There is human trafficking. There is all the perversion that we've already talked about. It's a real life situation. It's not make-believe, right? Now, I want to interrupt real quick because in 2014, CBS, which is leftist, interviewed Mr. Tim Ballard, and here's what they said.
Last weekend, police broke up a major sex trafficking ring in Colombia, which has become a destination for tourists looking for sex with boys and girls. The police had help from an American who went undercover to rescue the children, and Elaine Quijano met him.
Tim Ballard has one mission: to track down child traffickers. 4 months ago, Colombian authorities asked him to investigate a tip that children were being sold there as sex slaves.
Within a half hour, this individual walks up to me, starts asking me what I'm here for, what I want, and within minutes, he says, well, I've got kids as young as 11 years old.
Ballard, a former Homeland Security agent, now heads up Operation Underground Railroad, a nonprofit group that rescues trafficked kids. After that first meeting, the Colombians asked him to put together a sting.
No men will be in here, only women.
Operation Underground Railroad spent months planning, renting this house, rigging it with hidden cameras to document the crime, coordinating with Colombian authorities, and negotiating with the traffickers.
How they find these kids is they lure them in by pretending to have a modeling agency. They target them at 9 or 10 years old. And they were telling us that about by 11, they're ready for sex. They're ready to be sold.
What is that like, looking into that kind of person's eyes?
It's horrifying, and this is why. Because I've got a smile in the face of evil. This is the table where we're going to...
Last weekend, police
So there you have it, right? CBS aired this, so this is not a conspiracy theory. And again, if Jim Caviezel has conspiracy theories, that should be irrelevant to the significance and the message behind this film. So I don't understand what this lady's talking about. I don't understand what these morons are talking about. It seems like very clear that when the right says jump, the left says sit down, just out of defiance. And this is one thing that really should not. No one should be saying the opposite of, hey, let's be mindful. Hey, let's be alert. Hey, let's stop this. Hey, we've gotta do something. No one should be against protecting children in any way, shape, or form. Again, unless you are one of those perverts or a pervert sympathizer, one or the other, right? So here's the interesting part. This lady who mentioned really quickly in one of her things, she's talking about the diversity of the movie and so on and so forth, and how Hispanics are seem to be conservative, right? We've said this on our channel, when we first started it in one of our episodes. Traditional Hispanics, specifically the ones that come from Latin American countries, we are conservative on a vast majority. And for the most part, they do identify as Catholic. Now, we can get into the nuances of the practices and so on and so forth and how the lives are lived. However, there is that religious affiliation there. And so when these people come over here, they're coming here with that conservative mentality, with that religious background. So if you do things that are pushing against or are you going to an extreme like the left extreme, then you're going to turn off some of those people that you think that you're representing. Here's the funny part. So she calls out the diversity, right? But this movie, believe it or not, I would say it's over 75% of the cast and the crew, the actors, are Hispanic. Like, I looked at the credits, and the vast majority of them are Hispanic. The actors themselves, like I said, over 75% of the actors are Hispanic. So why would she dismiss that factor if she's such a supporter of minorities, right? Well, where's your support? Who cares what the main actor thinks, right? If you're such a social justice warrior the way that you are, then you should be helping this film, because 75%, over 75% of the cast is supposedly the people that you want to help. Hypocrite. She calls out the ticket donations, right? Again, the differential between entertainment and real life circumstances. So she calls it out here and she makes it seem like it's something bad. Oh, well, the numbers aren't really there. They're not really those actual numbers because of the donation. So people are just buying tickets just to buy them and kind of bump up the numbers. Interesting, because I didn't hear any pushback when Black Panther did it years ago. I think it was back in 2017 when Black Panther came out. There were a number of famous people who bought out entire movie theaters. Let's take a look. They bought out entire movie theaters to fill them up for children. Well, in some cases is specifically for black children only, which is an issue all in itself. But I'm trying to point out the fact that the left has no problem doing this stuff, right? But then when the right does it, it's an issue. That's hypocritical. If you have an issue, it should be on both directions, not one. Now, like I said, there's a difference between entertainment, which is what it was for Black Panther, versus what Sound of Freedom is, right? It's a real life situation that does need concern, that does need awareness. And at the end of the movie, there's a special message, and Jim Caviezel actually comes out and says, listen, we don't want money to be the issue. Somebody doesn't see this movie, isn't made aware of what's going on. So yes, they do have a link where you can go and you can donate, and I'm going to put that link in the description in the event that somebody has that financial hardship, right? Because we know Biden's economy sucks, right? That's just the reality of it. So 11 celebrities who treated kids to free screening of Black Panther, right? I don't even know some of these people. Kendrick Lamar, Top Dog, whatever, Travis Scott. I like I said, I don't know some of these people, right? T.I., great, fine, amazing. All right, so we have, and these are 11 top. I know that there's more. I know that there was more because I remember reading it as I was coming out. But anyhow, so she thinks this is a left-right situation, conservatives versus liberal, when it really isn't. I went to two different theaters. I saw the movie twice, and I went to two different theaters. One was in a red county, and one was in a blue county, right? Both theaters were full. They were packed. They really were. The red county, I got there a little bit late. The movie had already started by the time I got there, so I couldn't really tell the audience, right? The mixture of the audience. I couldn't tell who they predominantly were, but I imagine they're mixed. But in the blue county one, there was a higher range of diversity. They were predominantly Hispanic. This county, which is Hillsborough County over in Tampa, is traditionally blue and it's majority Hispanic, right? And so it's been blue up until this last election. It's voted blue. It was a blue stronghold up until this last election, thanks to Ron DeSantis. But the point is, I would imagine the majority of the people in that theater were registered Democrats. This has nothing to do with politics, and yet these people are trying to make it about politics. Now, let's move a little bit further. We talked about how these people seem to demonize and criticize this particular movie that brings awareness to human trafficking of children, and yet, and we saw the Rolling Stones, what they had said, Yet when the Netflix movie, I think it was a Netflix movie, Cuties came out, oh, they had no issues there. They called it brave and beautiful. Here it is. Rolling Stone, Cuties review, coming of age, movie caught in the culture wars. Thanks to a major marketing mistake, this award-winning French movie has been accused of sexualizing girls. It's actually sensitive portrait of growing pains that deserves to be seen. That's how they handle. Now, I haven't seen the show because like I said, it made me sick just seeing the poster of it, which I'm not going to show, right? And I've seen, as I'm doing research for this particular episode, I've seen some of the images that were coming off of it. I would not want my teen daughter to dress like that. I would not want my adolescent daughter to dress like that. And I've seen it when I've gone to my kids' high schools or my kids' elementary school. I've seen girls wear really inappropriate things. And when I look at their mother, they're wearing equally inappropriate things. And the father is allowing it to happen. It's wrong. It's wrong. And the fact that these people are glorifying it, it's wrong. It's wrong. So that gives you an indication of where these perverts are. They'll criticize a film bringing awareness to help prevent human trafficking and sex trafficking, but they're okay promoting teen girls dressed in little tiny outfits, dancing in provocative and inappropriate positions. It's absolutely disgusting, and I can't believe it. Now, here's what some of the reviews have said regarding this, and it was these reviews are coming from Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb. One person said, Cuties is a thematically bold yet nuanced study of displacement and duty that deserves to be seen as an auspicious and astute debut, not the source of scandal. Another person says, this movie is actually very impressive. The acting is incredible. The directing and cinematography are great. The message is important, despite what people say. You guys are sick. People who think this show was good are sick people. Because children should not be sexualized. And it's because of the sexualization of children that we have these perverts doing this stuff on the black web, on the dark internet, and doing the types of perverted things that the movie Sound of Freedom highlights. So it's sad. It's sad. Let's get into some politics. Now, one would think that the protection of children takes precedence over just about everything and anything. Yet once again, the left has shown they are no longer the party of regular and normal people. After their defund the police campaign, which has arguably failed miserably, adding their open border policies, which has increased crime across the country, and now they appear to be defending pedophiles and human trafficking of minors. In a head scratcher, it was reported that House Democrats from California rejected a bill that got bipartisan support in the Senate. Now, this bill that would have had stronger punitive measures on human trafficking of minors. So why would anyone in their right mind turn something that would protect children completely down? Why would they reject that? Unless of course you're involved in some of that stuff, right? I mean, that's the only logical thing. Listen, I'm sure that these people have kids, maybe grandkids, nieces, nephews, right? You can't tell me that they don't have some type of a child in the midst of what they're doing, and yet they're rejecting a bill that would find harsher punitive measures on human traffickers. Like, I don't understand that. See, California Democrats blocked bill to make child trafficking a serious felony. I'm going to read some of the things on here. So a Democrat majority committee in the California State Assembly has declined to advance a bill that would make child trafficking a serious felony in the Golden States. Again, this was bipartisan in the Senate. So that means both Republicans and Democrats did it, but somehow Democrats in California, we all know where California is, right? They turned it down. Now, it's interesting. Gavin Newsom, which I don't like, but Gavin Newsom was astounded, not in a good way, by the ruling. He couldn't make sense of it. He's like, I don't understand this. How can this possibly be? It says right here, the committee, which has 8 members, voted down the proposal with 2 Republican members voting in favor and 6 Democrats abstaining. Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat who's considered a possible future presidential candidate, has weighed in on the matter and spoken to Grove by phone about the bill. He said on Wednesday that he was surprised by the committee's decision. I want to understand exactly what happened yesterday, Newsom told reporters. I take it very seriously. Senator Grove issued a statement on Tuesday after passing the Senate with a unanimous bipartisan vote. I had hoped Democrats on the Assembly Public Safety Committee, led by Assemblyman Reggie Jones Sawyer, would agree to make sex trafficking of minors a serious felony. I am profoundly disappointed that the committee Democrats couldn't bring themselves to support the bill with their stubborn and misguided objection, she said. Here's what Jones Sawyer issued a statement on Tuesday about the committee's decision. The 3-strike model of sentencing is ineffective at preventing crime and protecting the public's safety. We will not build on a deeply flawed sentencing system that unfairly punishes disadvantaged communities, the statement said. Are you kidding me? Disadvantaged communities? What does human trafficking have to do with disadvantaged communities? They're making it seem like poverty is an excuse to engage in human trafficking. Are you kidding me? What is wrong with these people? They're absolutely deranged. Now, here's what's interesting. Disney, as well as other streaming platforms, refused to publish this film. I think it was mentioned on that video from Grace, yet many of them had no issues with cuties. They didn't really say much. We know the agenda that they're pushing, specifically in Netflix's case, which actually aired cuties. So I have a question. When did protecting children become political and controversial? Like, in my view, the protection of a certain community that is currently targeting kids has influenced this controversy, right? What was once considered normal by every and any human being who believes in protecting children has been changed for those who wish to pervert children. This is why it's crucial for us to stand firm and do not allow the false labeling of homophobia or bigotry silence us, right? The protection of the innocence of these children should outweigh any scrutiny, any false accusation, or ridiculous name calling that the left does. Because remember, they love to throw words and stick. You know, you don't like Obama, you're a racist. You're for legal immigration. Well, you're against immigrants. You're a bigot, right? You're against brown people. You're against people of color. Like, all immigrants are people of color. Let's start there, right? That's so stupid, right? You don't want. Listen, if 2 adults want to engage in being in a relationship, well, that's okay. That's fine. You do you. It doesn't affect me. But stop targeting children and trying to push that on children. Oh, you're homophobic. I mean, that's what these people are doing. So here's a person. Here's a conservative movie. It's not even conservative. It's just a movie bringing attention to something, and yet they're because the actor is conservative, right? They're labeling it a conspiracy theory. It's unbelievable. Now, let's get into some public noise, right? There's been rumors that certain theaters, specifically AMC, has had issues with their movies, right? Things from air conditioning breaking down, technical issues playing the film, suspicious activities that have caused people to really, take to social media and show what's going on. In some cases, it shows that the theater sold out, and the person in there is filming that the actual theater is empty, even though it says it's sold out. I don't know. Let's take a look at this video though, and you see for yourself, because sometimes you can't believe. Like okay, they're showing a video, or in one case they're showing the screen where it says that it's full. That could be to another movie. I don't know. It's not showing the actual screen. It's not showing the web address. It's not showing those details. So that could absolutely be manipulated. But in this video that I'm going to show, you've got it happening. People are recording it live while the workers from the theaters are giving the announcement. So let's check that out real quick.
People come out and complain, it's not our fault. We have to get this situated so that everybody can feel accommodated, and then we'll restart the movie, okay?
Restart the movie?
It's about to start. We just pause it like the second before it goes. Just to let you guys know again, it is gonna get hot. It is gonna be like that throughout the whole movie.
So why is it only this one though, not all the other ones?
Because this was assigned in a theater that was smaller, unfortunately, to high demand in an audience. It was just, well,
that's bullshit though.
We have a 9 and we have an 11 o'clock showing for the exchanges. You can get a full refund, or you can go ahead and get an exchange for the other times.
But we can watch it, right? They're gonna play the movie?
Yeah, we're about to play it right now.
Okay.
We're just letting you guys know so we don't have any issues later. No, it's just we haven't played it right now.
Yeah, we're good. It's not gonna get hotter than this, is it? Is that what you're saying?
There shouldn't be nobody coming in.
Yeah, no, then we should.
Okay. All right, then.
I think everybody's ready. Thank you.
It's actually happening.
We give you our free passes to come back and see it again, hopefully without interruption. I unfortunately apologize for the inconvenience, but we're getting it hopefully looked at later in the week. Can I trust you? Sorry, guys.
Really?
This is called intentional. They don't want it to go to the box office gross. Don't take the money.
Part of my job.
With our protector, we had to wait for it to download the movie. It's going to be about 30 minutes. Everyone in here is going to get a free film pass. If you want to leave, that's understandable. I'll go do a refund. I can help you. But for now, we're going to have to wait for the movie to download.
Did you change it to another theater?
I don't think so. This is the only one that has it for tonight.
So how do we get the free pass?
You can just come to us and the concessions or the gelato. If you want to leave, we can help you. If you want to refund, we can pass and do everything. It's gonna have to wait for 30 minutes, then we're gonna fast forward the trailers and then we'll start it.
Can we get the free pass after the movie?
Yes, you can get it after the movie, yes. After everybody here get a free pass, even if you're not leaving or if you get a refund, I don't care.
Okay.
So then you wanna go?
You and everyone else in the nation. Wow. Wow, hey, you also said you're sold out on wine.
Here's what we can do for you guys. These are the options that we're about to give you guys right now. All right? So everyone's going to get a pass for a future movie, and then you can also get a swap into a different showtime for another day or for later tonight.
Wow.
Or you can get a refund.
How come online and said all the seats were sold out? What a f***ing joke.
So there you have it. Some people recorded it live. I mean, you know, it's hard to call that a conspiracy theory, and yet that's exactly what the CEO of AMC said. He actually responded to this in a tweet. Let's bring that up. Now, just for you know, truth and transparency, I went to go see it twice, like I said. And in one case, it was not an AMC. It was a it was called B&B Theater, and so I didn't have any issues there. And I also went to an AMC theater the second time, and no issues there. So as far as my experience goes, I had no issues. Both theaters were actually sold out. The first theater was on a Friday, which you would expect, and it was during the second week, if I'm not mistaken. And then the second theater, actually I saw it like 2 days ago, so it was on a Tuesday night, and that was packed as well. So and we're now into the third week of it, right? So you know, you guys judge for yourself. But the CEO responds to claim of freedom being suppressed in theaters. The CEO of AMC slammed rumors that this movie theater chain was suppressing the release of the new film Sound of Freedom. The new movie produced by blah, 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 blah. Really bizarre, floating around Twitter that we were suppressing attendance of Sound of Freedom. AMC's tweeted and said yesterday we showed the movie 3,000 times at our 507 U.S. theaters and more than 100,000 people watched it. Misinformation on Twitter is astonishing bots and haters. I think he went on to call it conspiracy theories, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to look for that, and here's this tweet. Let's see here. No, it's just basically what I just read. But here's what I'd say to this. I don't think. Let's put this ridiculous. Oh, here it goes. Let's put this ridiculous conspiracy theory to bed, right? Okay, so I'm not saying that AMC is doing this on purpose, right? I don't think the CEO is that crazy. But could it be that maybe the individual managers at these local stores, and again, it's not all of them, maybe it's just a handful or two handfuls they're doing, because honestly, the left is capable of everything and anything, right? Listen, I've gone to the movies for 40 years. I've been an avid movie goer, and I have never seen any of that stuff that I just showed you in that video ever. Not once have I ever seen or experienced that. Not to say that it doesn't happen, but wow, to say that it happened that many times with this one specific movie, yeah, I wouldn't be calling it a conspiracy theory. If I were the CEO, I would be looking into those claims. I would reassure the public, saying, listen, this is not AMC policy. We are not doing this. But I see your videos. I see your concerns. And believe me, I'm gonna be investigating. I'm gonna do an internal investigation. We're gonna find out what exactly happened, and assure that this doesn't happen again, because this is serious. I mean, if it were just entertainment, let's just say it was a regular conservative movie, who cares? Right? I mean, it's still a big deal because it is your money, but at the end of the day, you're not losing. But this is a serious situation. This is a serious subject matter. This is not something that so cavalierly should be thrown out. So I really, I think the CEO should have responded a little bit better here, in my opinion. Let's dig into the numbers, because we got some new numbers here today that we can go over, and it's pretty astonishing. If I can get my screen to work. So this is from the numbers.com, Sound of Freedom. It has made domestic, and it's only domestic, it's made over $1 million, almost 101. Wow, that's phenomenal on a $14 million budget, right? That's an $86 million overperformance. Now, supposedly, from what I understand, these movies usually to advertise is about double the budget, and this really didn't have the type of advertisement that normal Hollywood movies make. So I don't think it's double. But let's just, for argument's sake, say, it's 28 million, right? Budget, right? That's still a lot. 73 million in revenue in 16 days. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Grace had compared this to the Dial of Destiny, or the Indiana Jones, I call it the Dial of Wokeness, right? Had a $300 million budget. Let's take a look at that real quick. So Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. All right, so far, total, it's made 307.7, right? Versus a budget of 300 million. This had a huge amount of advertising. So if the double theory is true, then this movie's got to make 600 million to actually start making money. So it's at 307 with 20 days so far into it. I don't think it's going to hit that number. But look at the domestic number. We're talking about 150.9. So 151. Let's just round up to 151, right? Again, the Sound of Freedom is not international, which is surprising. I actually went to a Facebook Latin website, and the amount of comments regarding this movie from Hispanics across the globe is phenomenal. I saw multiple people saying, bring it here to Peru, bring it here to Ecuador, we want to see it in Bolivia, we want to see it in Panama, we want to see it. All of these Latin countries are vying for this film. They want to see it. So I imagine that if there was a domestic release, we could probably see some close numbers that would rival these, right? And so that would just increase it. I don't know why they didn't go internationally, or it could be that they tried and it just wasn't accepted, because let's be real, this movie does take place in Latin America as far as the setting goes, right? And the trafficking that goes there. Here's the issue. We've got the Latin American countries that are producing it, and we've got, unfortunately, rich pigs here in America who are consuming it. That's what the movie's showing you. So I don't know if maybe, you know, the powers that be over there in those Latin countries are like, well, this is showing up. This is a bad highlight for us, you know, type of thing. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But the point is that in 20 days, let's just look at the domestic numbers, right? 151, let's just say, to 101 in a difference of what, 6 days or 4 days? 4 days difference. It's pretty good for the fact that this is a major Hollywood movie and the other one really isn't, right? So just to show the contrast here, right? Let's see. Last thing, here are my final thoughts, to be quite honest with you. You know, never in my life would I have imagined a movie of this caliber ever getting any type of hate or even criticism. It's a movie based on a true story with the intention of bringing this real world problem to the center of stage. I mean, I recall in the 80s watching a movie made by Sigourney Weaver. She starred in it, right? And it was called Gorillas in the Mist. And it was a movie that was made to bring awareness to poaching over in Africa, specifically poaching of gorillas, right? From what I understood of the movie and what I remember, it's been you know, 3 decades since I've seen it. But the gorillas were being killed for their hands, and according to what the movie had stated, what the hands, these rich people were basically using the hands as ashtray, which is disgusting, right? I can't believe there are, you know, these types of evil people in the world. But the point is, it was to bring awareness to the international community. Poaching should be illegal. That's step number 1, make it illegal and enforce that illegality and make the laws, the punishment really punitive to people who do poach, because at some point we're going to lose these precious animals. It's not just the gorillas, it was also elephants with their ivory tusks and so on and so forth, right? You know, tigers for their fur. You know, we can name a multitude of animals that were being hunted for something that they have, right? And they're poaching, right? Which hence the word implies that there's illegal, but it still happens, right? So it was to bring awareness to the international community that we need to crack down. That's what this movie's about. How about the movie The Accused by Jodie Foster? It was to bring awareness to date rape and how that would transpire and so on and so forth. And so out of that movie, it inspired people to hey, let's get tougher laws, let's get more punitive laws, you know, and so on and so forth. This is an issue that's going on in our country and so on and so forth. Why? I mean, I don't remember, you know, those 2 movies getting criticized to this caliber, right? I mean, we were in different times too, but if those movies were to come out today, depending on how they were made, right? You know, is it a movie that's bringing awareness, or is it a movie that's man bashing, right? Those are 2 differences, right? But the point is that something of this caliber should not be politicized in any way, shape, or form, and the left is doing that. They're politicizing. It's a movie that brought attention. The sad reality is that this movie, which has nothing to do with politics, is being dismissed and demonized by leftists, and it shouldn't be dismissed by any normal, decent human being. I know I've said that, but I'm going to reiterate it because it's very true. The numbers that the movie actually reports make my stomach turn in disgust. We're talking about $150 billion industry for this type of stuff. Over 2 million children are abducted into sex slavery. There's more slavery today regarding this subject matter than when slavery was legal and practiced worldwide. That's sad and disgusting. Over 22 million images of child pornography are updated daily. These are just sad numbers. This is a serious topic, guys. Not just between our 2 continents, right, on this side of the planet, but it's a worldwide issue, right? But it's also a domestic issue as well. I mean, there are millions of kids that get abused right at home, you know, from family members, from friends, from known people, a boyfriend, a stepfather, etc. You know, we've always got to keep an eye on our children. I mean, I know that we can't be there at every single moment of every single time, but we really need to educate our children about inappropriate touching. I know it's not an easy conversation to have, but if we don't have those conversations, then the abuser, the predator, is going to intimidate children to stay quiet. And they're going to take advantage of them. So we really need to do everything that we can to protect them. Also, if you're moved by this film, number 1, I want to make it clear, you know, don't listen to the garbage from the left regarding this film, go see the film. It's worth seeing. Don't let them scare you into not seeing it, which this is a conservative channel, so I would imagine the majority of you viewers are conservative and really don't care what the left say. But if you have someone that, or you know someone that they're like, I don't know, I heard, rest assured, it's not. It has nothing. This movie doesn't mention politics at all. It doesn't mention Democrats. It doesn't mention Republicans. It doesn't mention conservative. It doesn't mention liberal. It doesn't mention right, left. None of that stuff. It's a movie that is just centered on the issue of the matter at hand, right? And telling the true story. So, but again, if you're moved by the movie once you do see it, or if you have seen it, get involved. There's a number of companies out there that, you know, that help with this situation. Operation Underground Railroad, which is the one that Tim Ballard worked with. That's a start. You know, give them a call, check them out, check out their website. But there's a number of other companies that are actively involved in helping to free children. So recommend just checking them out, making sure they're legit, you know, because we know the types of the world that we live in, right? Also, we need to apply pressure on our political leaders, right? I say that in quotation mark because in my personal opinion, or in my personal view, I think a lot of our leaders are perverts themselves. They're consumers as well, because it doesn't make sense to me in my mind why this, like the war on drugs back in the 80s, right? Why there's not a war on human trafficking and pedophilia and so on and so forth. If anything, the left seems to protect these monsters, as we provided an example earlier today. So this should be on everybody's list. So guys, thanks so much for joining me on today's episode. I hope you guys get to go see it. I've been displaying that link that the actor had showed. So if you want to purchase a ticket for someone else, you absolutely can. Just click on the link and donate if you're able to, right? This is not for them to make money. It's to bring awareness so that people are aware of what's going on. They can see it, they can feel it, right? It's storytelling, but it's true, it's emotional. And so that's what we're going to do. And like I said, on our next episode, I'm going to try and get a guest. And the reason why, and I'll tell you why, and I didn't cover it today, but in one of the magazines, or one of the news sources for Rolling Stone that were criticizing it, they brought in experts to show the problematic things regarding Sound of Freedom. Okay, we're going to cover that article, and we're also going to talk to our special guest to contrast and see what she says, who I know she's an actual expert, versus what the experts say, right? The experts that said inflation wouldn't happen, or that inflation would be transitory, right? Are we going to have those same types of experts? We'll take a look at it next time. Guys, take care. Till all one, stay alert. God bless. Peace out. Bye-bye.